Afternoon, West in the world. Welcome to your review video for Thursday, April 3rd. Following this morning's lecture on the world between the wars. As we've rounded the bend into the final stretch of our course and have moved fully now into the 20th century, we're trying to understand the transformative effect of the two great wars of the 20th century, the First World War and the Second World War, which, as we noted in class a couple of times, really are perhaps well conceived of as a single conflict with a prolonged pause in between, because as we talked about this morning, the way in which World War I concludes feeds in a very direct way into the outbreak of World War II. Well, we saw that particularly, of course, in terms of the effects of the Treaty of Versailles and the ways in which it embitters the German population. But as much as we want to make sure that we sort of understand the connections between World War I and World War II, we want also to be able to sort of see what's happening in the era of World War II and of these wars in general as being equally connected to events that had occurred in the decades beforehand and related to the events that will unfold immediately after. And what we talked about in class today tried to sort of bring some of that out. In talking about ideas like anti-Semitism or debates over women's rights, issues that reach a kind of crescendo in this time period between the wars, but that had been building over time, over very long periods of time, from in the 19th and even back to the 18th, 17th centuries and before. Of course, we also saw that when Hitler comes to power, he does so on the back of this philosophy of Lebensraum, the idea of living space that is needed for a great nation at the expense of other human beings. Another idea that we can clearly recognize as derivative of older ideas, social Darwinism, for example. And so what is happening here in this moment is a concentration of a lot of very old ideas that we've seen build up over time. And of course, World War II is very much going to sort of set the stage for the defining feature of the second half of the 20th century, which is the Cold War, the global bipolar arrangement of things created between the United States and its allies and the Soviet Union and its allies, that's going to follow immediately on the heels of World War II. We started to get just hints of that today in talking about the rise of the Soviet Union and the philosophy of government that lay behind it, seeing the contrast between its Marxist orientation and the more liberal approach of governments like the United States or other states in Western Europe. Next week, we'll move more fully into these topics. We'll look at the ways in which the war itself transforms the power of Western states like Britain and France, mostly in the sense that it diminishes it, and the ways in which the distrust of Stalin in particular feeds into the arrival of the Cold War. But those are things for next week. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you on Tuesday.